Here is a new episode of Building Battle, my dear friends. It's Noob from Minecraft with you. Today I'm going to make building challenge of modern island house with my friends Pro, Hacker, and God. And while I will build it, I would like to tell you one breathtaking story about two friends Dan and Sally, who found themselves on a desert island and built a modern city on it. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Let's build! The sun was setting on the horizon as Dan and Sally stood on the deck of the cruise ship, enjoying the warm breeze and the promise of adventure ahead. Little did they know that their lives were about to take a dramatic turn. Suddenly, a violent storm emerged, tossing the ship like a toy in the hands of a giant. Before they could react, a colossal wave crashed against the ship, tearing it apart and sending Dan and Sally plunging into the churning sea. Gasping for air, they struggled to stay afloat amidst the debris and chaos. As the storm raged on, they clung to each other, their hearts pounding with fear and uncertainty. Hours passed before the storm finally subsided, leaving them stranded on a small, uninhabited island, surrounded by nothing but endless ocean. As they surveyed their surroundings, Dan and Sally realized the magnitude of their predicament. With no sign of rescue in sight, they knew they had to rely on each other to survive. Gathering whatever supplies they could salvage from the wreckage, they set out to find shelter and food, determined to make the best of their new reality. As the days turned into weeks, Dan and Sally worked tirelessly to build a shelter from the elements. They gathered branches, leaves, and whatever materials they could find, fashioning them into a sturdy hut. Despite the hardships they faced, their spirits remained unbroken, fueled by their determination to survive. "This should keep us safe from the rain," Dan said, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's not much, but it's a start." Sally nodded, her hands covered in dirt from digging a makeshift fire pit. "We'll need to find some rocks for the walls," she replied, "and maybe some more branches for support." Together, they scoured the island, searching for the perfect stones and branches to fortify their shelter. As they worked, they talked about their families, their friends, and the life they had left behind. Despite the sadness that lingered in their hearts, they found comfort in each other's company. "I miss my mom," Sally said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I hope she knows we're okay." Dan put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "She'll be worried sick, but we'll find a way to let her know we're alive," he said, his voice filled with determination. With renewed resolve, they continued their work, their thoughts turning to the future. They dreamed of a day when they would be rescued, when they could return home and share their incredible story with the world. Until then, they focused on the task at hand, building a new home on their deserted island. With their shelter complete, Dan and Sally set out to explore their new surroundings. They walked along the sandy beaches, marveling at the crystal-clear waters and the lush greenery that surrounded them. Everywhere they looked, there was evidence of life thriving in this seemingly isolated paradise. "Look at these shells," Sally exclaimed, picking up a handful from the shore. "They're so beautiful." Dan nodded, bending down to examine a colorful coral reef. "And look at the fish," he said, pointing to a school of vibrant fish darting through the water. "I wonder if we can catch some for dinner." As they wandered further inland, they discovered a small stream meandering through the jungle. The sound of running water was a welcome relief from the constant buzz of insects and the heat of the sun. "I bet we can find some fresh water here," Dan said, kneeling down to drink from the stream. "It tastes better than the water we've been collecting from the rain." Sally followed suit, cupping her hands and taking a long drink. "It's so refreshing," she said, smiling. "I feel like we're really starting to make this place our home." Their exploration continued for days, each new discovery filling them with wonder and excitement. They found fruit trees laden with ripe mangoes and bananas, and they learned how to fish using makeshift tools. With each passing day, their confidence grew, and they began to believe that they could not only survive on the island but thrive. As Dan and Sally ventured deeper into the island, they encountered a variety of wildlife that both fascinated and challenged them. They came across monkeys swinging from tree to tree, their playful antics a welcome distraction from the hardships of their new life. "They're so funny," Sally laughed, watching a group of monkeys frolic in the branches above. "I never thought I'd be living among monkeys." Dan smiled, enjoying the sight as well. "They seem to be enjoying themselves," he observed. "Maybe we can learn a thing or two from them about having fun in this situation." Their encounter with the monkeys was just the beginning. They soon encountered other creatures, some friendly and curious, others wary and territorial. They learned to navigate the island's ecosystem, avoiding dangerous predators while seeking out sources of food and water. One day, while exploring a dense thicket, they stumbled upon a family of wild boars. Startled by their sudden appearance, the boars snorted and stamped their feet, warning Dan and Sally to keep their distance. "We should probably give them some space," Dan whispered, slowly backing away. "I don't think they're too happy to see us," Sally nodded, her heart racing with adrenaline. "Let's find another path," she suggested, leading the way back to the safety of their camp. Despite these encounters, Dan and Sally remained undeterred. They knew that they were not alone on the island, and they respected the creatures that called it home. As they continued to explore, they marveled at the beauty and diversity of the island's wildlife, finding solace in the natural world around them.
I'm happy to see you again, my friends. It is me, Pro from Minecraft. I'm happy to see you again. My friend Noob made very cool modern island, but I will try to build it even more interesting. And while I do this, I will continue to tell you an exciting story about Dan and Sally. Also like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's start building. With their basic needs met, Dan and Sally turned their attention to improving their living conditions. They began to construct more permanent structures. Using the resources they had gathered from the island, they built a sturdy wooden bridge across a ravine, making it easier to access different parts of the island. They also constructed a larger, more comfortable shelter, complete with a roof to protect them from the elements. "This is starting to feel like a real home," Sally said, admiring their handiwork. "I never thought we'd be able to build something like this." Dan nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's amazing what we can do when we put our minds to it," he replied. "I think we're becoming quite the builders." As they worked, they experimented with different techniques and materials, constantly innovating to make their lives easier. They fashioned tools from stones and wood, creating axes, hammers, and even a crude saw. They also built a simple irrigation system to water their crops, ensuring a steady supply of fresh fruits and vegetables. Their hard work paid off, and soon their camp transformed into a bustling hub of activity. They built a communal area where they could gather for meals and meetings, and they constructed a small dock where they could fish and collect rainwater. With each new addition, their sense of pride and accomplishment grew, strengthening their bond and their resolve to thrive on the island. As they looked out at their burgeoning city, they knew that they had achieved something truly remarkable. Against all odds, they had turned a deserted island into a vibrant community, a testament to their perseverance and ingenuity. And as they watched the sunset on another day, they knew that their adventure was far from over. As Dan and Sally's city continued to grow, so did their friendship. They had faced countless challenges together, and their bond had only grown stronger with each obstacle they overcame. They laughed together, shared stories of their past lives, and dreamed of their future beyond the island. "I never thought I'd find such a good friend in you," Sally said one evening, as they sat by the fire, roasting fish they had caught earlier that day. "I feel like we can conquer anything as long as we're together." Dan smiled, flipping a fish on the makeshift grill. "I feel the same way," he replied. "I don't know how I would have survived this long without you." Their friendship was tested when a series of storms hit the island, destroying their crops and flooding their homes. For days, they worked tirelessly to repair the damage, using whatever materials they could salvage. It was a difficult time, but they refused to give up, drawing strength from each other's determination. "We can't let this setback defeat us," Dan said, as they surveyed the damage. "We've come too far to give up now." Sally nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "We'll rebuild," she said. "We've done it before, and we can do it again." With renewed determination, they set to work. rebuilding their city stronger and more resilient than before. They reinforced their structures, planted new crops, and restocked their supplies. It was hard work, but they knew that together they could overcome any challenge that came their way. As they worked side by side, their friendship grew deeper, rooted in mutual respect and unwavering support. They knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together, as friends and as survivors. With their city rebuilt and their spirits high, Dan and Sally turned their attention to expanding their community. They began to explore new areas of the island, looking for suitable locations to build more homes and facilities. They discovered a fertile valley where they could grow more crops, and a nearby hill that offered a commanding view of the surrounding area. This hill would be perfect for a lookout tower, Dan said, surveying the landscape. We could use it to keep an eye out for any approaching ships. Sally nodded, her eyes shining with excitement. And we could build a community center at the foot of the hill, she suggested, somewhere for everyone to gather and socialize. They worked tirelessly, clearing land, building roads, and constructing new buildings. Their community grew rapidly, attracting other survivors who had been stranded on the island. Together, they formed a tight-knit community, united by their shared experience and their determination to thrive in their new home. We've come a long way from that first night on the beach, Sally said, as they watched the sunset from their lookout tower. I never imagined we'd build something like this. Dan put his arm around her shoulders, smiling proudly. We built more than just a city, he said. We've built a community, a family, and I couldn't have done it without you. As they stood together, watching the sun dip below the horizon, they knew that their journey was far from over, but with their friendship as strong as ever and their city thriving, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Years passed, and Dan and Sally's city flourished, becoming a beacon of hope and resilience in the midst of the vast ocean. Their community grew into a thriving society, with schools, hospitals, and businesses serving the needs of its inhabitants. Dan and Sally had become leaders, guiding their people with wisdom and compassion. We've built something incredible here, Sally said, as they walked through the bustling streets of their city. I never imagined we could create a place like this. Dan nodded, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. We've overcome so much together, he replied. And look how far we've come. Their city had become a symbol of what could be achieved through perseverance and teamwork. People from all over the world marveled at their story, inspired by the resilience of two friends who had turned a deserted island into a thriving metropolis. As they looked out at the city they had built, Dan and Sally knew that their legacy would live on long after they were gone. They had created not just a city, but a home, a community, and a testament to the power of friendship and determination. We've left our mark on this island, Sally said, her voice filled with emotion. And I know that wherever life takes us next, we'll always carry a piece of this place with us. Dan smiled, taking her hand in his. We've built more than just a city, he said. We've built a legacy that will endure for generations to come. As they stood together, overlooking the city they had built from nothing, they knew that their adventure was far from over, but with each other by their side, they were ready to face whatever the future held, knowing that they had already achieved something truly remarkable. Despite the prosperity of their city, Dan and Sally faced new challenges as they continued to expand and develop their community. A series of natural disasters struck the island, testing their resilience once again. A powerful hurricane tore through their city, leaving behind a trail of destruction. Buildings were damaged, crops were destroyed, and many of their citizens were injured. This is devastating, Sally said, surveying the damage, but we've been through tough times before. We can rebuild. Dan nodded, his jaw set with determination. We'll need to work together and support each other. He said, we've overcome adversity before, and we'll do it again. With the help of their fellow citizens, Dan and Sally led the effort to rebuild their city. They worked day and night, clearing debris, repairing buildings, and providing aid to those in need. Their resilience and determination inspired others to join in the effort. And slowly but surely, their city began to rise from the ruins. As they stood amidst the rebuilding efforts, Dan and Sally knew that their city was stronger than ever. They had faced yet another challenge and had emerged victorious, proving once again that together, they could overcome anything.
from Minecraft. My friend Pro have made some very interesting modern island house build, but we should show them how professional hackers build it. And while I'm building, I'll continue to tell you the breathtaking story. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's go! As their city continued to thrive, Dan and Sally decided it was time to celebrate their achievements. They organized a grand festival, inviting people from all over the island to join in the festivities. The streets were filled with music, laughter, and the smell of delicious food as people came together to celebrate their community. "This is amazing," Sally said, as she danced with a group of children. "I never imagined we'd have something like this when we first arrived on the island." Dan smiled, watching the joyful scene unfold. "We've come a long way," he said, "and this is just the beginning. There are so many more things we can achieve together." The festival was a resounding success, bringing people together and strengthening the bonds of their community. As the sun set on the final day of the celebration, Dan and Sally knew that their city was not just a place to live, but a place to thrive, to dream, and to build a better future for generations to come. With their city firmly established, Dan and Sally turned their attention to exploring the rest of the island. They ventured into uncharted territory, discovering hidden caves, majestic waterfalls, and breathtaking vistas. Each new discovery filled them with awe and wonder, reminding them of the beauty and mystery of the world around them. "We've only scratched the surface of what this island has to offer," Sally said, gazing out at a vast, untouched wilderness. "There's so much more to explore." Dan nodded, his eyes shining with excitement. "I can't wait to see what else we'll find." He replied, "I feel like we're just getting started." Together, they continued to explore, uncovering ancient ruins, rare plants, and exotic animals. Each new discovery added to the rich tapestry of their island home, fueling their sense of adventure and curiosity. As they journeyed deeper into the heart of the island, they knew that their adventure was far from over. There were still mysteries to unravel, challenges to overcome, and wonders to behold. And with each new discovery, their bond grew stronger, their friendship deeper, and their love for their island home more profound. Years passed, and Dan and Sally's city continued to thrive. Their children grew up surrounded by the beauty and abundance of the island, learning the skills and values that had been passed down through generations. Dan and Sally watched with pride as their children took on leadership roles in the community, carrying on the legacy of their parents. "It's hard to believe how much has changed," Sally said, as they walked along the beach, hand in hand. "But I'm grateful for every moment we've had here." Dan nodded, his eyes misting with emotion. "It's been an incredible journey," he replied, "and I wouldn't change a thing." As they looked out at the city they had built, they knew that their time on the island was coming to an end. Their children were ready to take over, and it was time for Dan and Sally to pass the torch to the next generation. It was a bittersweet moment, filled with pride for all they had accomplished and sadness at leaving behind the place they had called home for so long. But as they prepared to leave, they knew that their legacy would live on in the hearts and minds of their children and grandchildren. They had built more than just a city. They had built a community, a family, and a home that would endure for generations to come. As they sailed away from the island, Dan and Sally looked back one last time, taking in the sight of their city disappearing into the horizon. It was a moment of mixed emotions. As they said goodbye to the place that had been their home for so long. "I'll miss this place," Sally said, her voice filled with nostalgia. "But I'm ready for the next adventure." Dan nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Me too," he replied. "I'm grateful for everything we've experienced here, but I'm excited to see what the future holds." As they sailed towards the unknown, they knew that their island adventure had come to an end. But their journey was far from over. They were filled with hope and optimism for the future, knowing that wherever life took them next, they would face it together, as they had always done. As they stepped off the boat onto the familiar shores of their hometown, Dan and Sally felt a sense of nostalgia and excitement. It was strange to be back after so many years, but they were eager to reconnect with old friends and family members. "It feels like we've come full circle," Sally said, as they walked through the streets they had once called home. "But I know we've changed so much since we left." Dan nodded, taking her hand in his. "We've grown and learned so much," he replied. "But this place will always hold a special place in our hearts." As they reunited with loved ones and shared stories of their island adventure, Dan and Sally realized that their journey had come full circle. They had started as two friends stranded on a deserted island, and they had ended as leaders of a thriving community. Their island adventure had shaped them in ways they could never have imagined, and they were grateful for every moment of it. As they settled back into their old lives, They knew that they would always carry a piece of their island home with them, a reminder of the incredible journey they had shared and the lasting impact they had made on the world around them. As they settled back into their old lives, Dan and Sally took some time to reflect on their island adventure. They looked through old photographs and mementos, reliving the memories of their time on the island. Each item held a special significance, reminding them of the challenges they had overcome and the moments of joy they had shared. "I can't believe how much we've been through," Sally said, flipping through a photo album. "It feels like a lifetime ago." Dan nodded, a smile playing on his lips. "It's amazing how much we've accomplished," he replied. "I'm grateful for every experience we've had." Their island adventure had taught them valuable lessons about resilience, teamwork, and the power of friendship. They had learned to appreciate the simple pleasures of life and to find beauty in unexpected places. As they looked back on their journey, they felt a profound sense of gratitude for the opportunity to live such an extraordinary life. "We've been given a second chance," Sally said, her voice filled with emotion, "and I don't want to waste it." Dan squeezed her hand, his eyes shining with determination. "We'll make the most of every moment," he promised, "and we'll never forget the incredible journey that brought us here." As they embraced their new life, Dan and Sally were filled with a sense of excitement and possibility. They had returned home with a newfound appreciation for life and a determination to make the most of every opportunity. "I feel like we've been given a second chance," Sally said, as they walked through the familiar streets of their hometown, "and I want to make the most of it." Dan nodded, a smile on his face. "We have a lot to be grateful for," he replied, "and I want to live each day to the fullest." They began to explore new hobbies and interests, embracing the freedom to pursue their passions. They volunteered in their community, using their skills and experiences to make a positive impact. And they cherished every moment with their family and friends, knowing that life was precious and should be savored. As they looked towards the future, Dan and Sally felt a sense of optimism and excitement. They knew that their island adventure had changed them in profound ways, and they were ready to embrace the next chapter of their lives with open hearts and open minds. Years passed, and Dan and Sally's island adventure became a cherished memory, passed down through generations. Their children and grandchildren grew up hearing stories of their incredible journey, inspired by the resilience and courage of their ancestors. "I can't believe Grandma and Grandpa built a city on a deserted island," their grandchildren would say, wide-eyed with wonder. "They were amazing," their children would reply, pride evident in their voices. "And they taught us so much about perseverance and creativity." As the years went by, Dan and Sally's legacy lived on in the hearts and minds of their descendants. The city they had built continued to thrive, a testament to their vision and determination. And though they were no longer there to witness it, their spirit lived on in every brick, every tree, and every person who called the island home. As they grew older, Dan and Sally knew that their time was drawing to a close. They had lived a full and adventurous life, filled with love, laughter, and unforgettable experiences. Now, as they faced their final journey, they did so with grace and acceptance. "I'm grateful for every moment we've had together," Sally said, holding Dan's hand tightly. "I wouldn't change a thing." Dan smiled, his eyes filled with love. "You've been my partner in adventure and in life," he replied. "I couldn't have asked for more." They spent their final days surrounded by their loved ones, reminiscing about their island adventure and the life they had shared. As they closed their eyes for the last time, they knew that they had lived a life worth remembering, a life filled with love, courage, and the spirit of adventure. As Dan and Sally's story came to a close, a new adventure was just beginning. Their descendants carried on their legacy, building upon the foundation they had laid and continuing to thrive on the island they had called home. Each generation faced its own challenges and triumphs, but the spirit of Dan and Sally's city lived on, a testament to the resilience and creativity of the human spirit. "We owe everything to Grandma and Grandpa," their great-grandchildren would say, as they explored the city that had been built from nothing. "They showed us what is possible when we work together and never give up." And so, the legacy of Dan and Sally lived on, inspiring future generations to dream big, to embrace adventure, and to cherish the bonds of friendship and family. Their story became a legend, passed down through the ages, a reminder of the power of hope, perseverance, and the enduring legacy of love. As the years passed, the memory of Dan and Sally's island adventure faded into legend. Their city continued to thrive, a testament to the enduring spirit of their legacy. And though they were no longer there to witness it, their presence was felt in every corner of the island, in every building, in every tree, in every person who called it home. Their story became a source of inspiration for generations to come. A reminder that no challenge is too great, no dream too ambitious, and no adventure too daring. They had shown the world what was possible when two friends dared to dream. And their legacy would live on in the hearts and minds of all who heard their tale. As the sun set on the island, casting a golden glow over the city Dan and Sally had built, a new chapter began. The horizon stretched out before them, filled with endless possibilities and untold adventures, and though their journey had come to an end, the spirit of Dan and Sally's island adventure would live on forever, a beacon of hope and inspiration for generations to come. As time passed, the legend of Dan and Sally's island adventure grew, transcending generations and becoming a timeless tale of courage, resilience, and the enduring power of the human spirit. Their city continued to thrive, a living testament to their vision and determination, attracting visitors from far and wide who marveled at the ingenuity and creativity of its founders. "I can't believe this city was built by just a people," tourists would say, as they explored the streets lined with towering buildings and bustling markets. It's a true testament to what can be achieved with hard work and determination. And though Dan and Sally were no longer there to witness it, their spirit lived on in every brick, every tree, and every person who called the city home. Their legacy was immortalized in statues and monuments, their names remembered in songs and stories, ensuring that their memory would never fade as the years turned into centuries.
Well, what cool buildings my friends have made. I like them very much. And you? I hope so too. I should also show them how to make a modern island house building. Well, at the same time, I will continue the story. As the city they had built continued to thrive, a new generation of adventurers set out to explore the world beyond the island. They carried with them the spirit of Dan and Sally's island adventure, embarking on their own journeys of discovery and adventure, inspired by the courage and resilience of their ancestors. "We stand on the shoulders of giants," they would say, as they set sail for distant lands. Dan and Sally showed us that anything is possible if we dare to dream. And so, the legacy of Dan and Sally's island adventure lived on in the hearts and minds of all who heard their story. Their journey had not only transformed a deserted island into a thriving city, but had also inspired countless others to believe in themselves and the power of their dreams. As the city they had built continued to grow and evolve, Dan and Sally's spirit watched over it, a silent guardian of the dreams and aspiration of all who called it home. Their journey may have ended, but their legacy would live on forever, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit to overcome any obstacle and achieve the impossible.